Okay, so I thought I'd do a quick video, walk around of my Norco Range C2. So this is the mid-spec model, the C2. They do a C1, C2 and a C3. Obviously C1 being the top spec. So this is the mid-spec, which comes with the ZEB up front and the X2, DHX2 on the rear. I believe they all come with a DHX2 because apparently you can't run air on these. So out the box, I haven't really changed much at all, to be honest. It is pretty decent spec, but the first thing I really wasn't happy with is the code Rs. I've always been a Shimano fan. I know it's personal preference, but the bike cost me £4.5 grand. So I'm in the UK, but I did sell my old bike for 2.5, so technically the bike's cost me 2,000. I didn't really want to buy out the brand new brakes after. So what I did was I got rid of the SRAM centerline rotors, which were 205mm front and rear, and I swapped them out for these SRAM HS2 rotors. Got a big 220mm up front. It was a slightly cheaper option to obviously try and make the brakes a little better. They are quite a bit thicker, but they genuinely have made quite a good difference. My only issue with these brakes now is the lever feel. So if anyone's got any recommendations on what I can do with these without spending an absolute fortune, because I know SRAM sort of charge 150 a lever if you want sort of upgraded ones, but if there's any cheaper options out there, let us know in the comments please, because the lever feel is just rubbish on these. The actual performance of the brakes, brilliant, but it's just those levers. So that was the first thing I just swapped out. I've still got the original pads in there as well, and they work mint. The original stem, which was a 40mm Norco stem, I did swap it out for this larger 45mm, I think it is, Spank spoon, I believe it's called. Not gonna lie, it was meant to be bronze. I'm pretty certain that's more gold to me, but it kind of works. On hindsight, I've probably gone for a black one, being honest. It's a bit too bling. But the good thing about Norco is this is only half the spaces that were on there, but they leave loads on top of the original stem, so you can basically find the height that you want, and once you have, you can then just cut the steerer tube down. I've cut the bars down to 780, and then I took the DMR def grips off and put these ODI reflex grips on. Really rate these if you're considering them. They're so good, so much better than those DMR def grips. They were actually on my old bike, and you can see they've been on there about 2 years, if it'll focus. So they are a bit mashed from the uplifts and stuff, but the longevity of them compared to the DMRs are, well, night and day really. What else did I change? So I changed the oiler on this bike. So the original one was some black cheap alloy one, and after literally a couple of rides you could see it was just getting all chewed and wasn't looking too great. If you know anything about these sort of Norco bikes, especially the Range in the UK, parts are near on impossible to get hold of. But I did realise that this company here, the Schwalbe Billet, I believe they're called, they offer this aftermarket one, but obviously they are in Canada. But luckily for me, there's a shop in the UK now that sell their parts, and I mean, I've ridden this bike quite a lot with this on now, and there's no sign of wear really. So that's a proper good part, happy with that. It's certainly going to last longer than the original was. I run the Crank Brother Stamp 7s, as I've got the Crank Brother flats as well, so it kind of makes sense. I'm happy with those. And then tyre wise, so they came with Maxxis. I've always been a big fan of the Maxxis tyres. I always run DHR and DHF. but on my previous bike, my propane, I swapped them out for these Schwalbes. So I run the Magic Mary in the super soft compound gravity casing, and then I run a tacky chan on the rear, again with the gravity casing and the super soft. Honestly, I swear by them. If you are considering trying this combo, just do it. Obviously you've got the immense grip of the Magic Mary, you'll know how good that is, but coupled with the tacky chan on the rear, which is so fast rolling, it's just a perfect combo. And I'm running them in all conditions, to be honest, and I literally can't fault them. I didn't think I was going to move away from the Maxxis tyres, because this bike originally came with Maxxis Assegai and the Dissector. Used them once, and I just went back to my old combo, and yeah, I literally swear by them, to be honest. The Cushcores as well, never really run inserts, and I was a bit skeptical because they are quite an expensive bit of foam, to be honest. But literally a few rides in, and I was riding down a rock garden, and there's a massive ding in the wheel somewhere there. I heard it because I do tend to run fairly low pressures, so I thought it was time I did get some inserts. To be honest, obviously the biggest benefit of them is that you can run super low pressures. I know people that are running as low as 13 psi with these in, so you can certainly run lower pressures. But yeah, with the added protection, I guess. And I think that is literally all I've changed on this bike, really. As I said out the box, it's pretty decent spec. I can't fault it. But in terms of how this bike rides, I mean, I'll just do a brief because I'm no professional reviewer, but it is unreal, this bike. I've had pretty good bikes prior to this. I had the propane Tacky, I've had a Pivot Firebird, I've also had the Transition Patrol, and I mean, obviously this is far more, I feel like it's downhill based, but it is still an enduro bike. The way that this tracks over all the gnarliest terrain is unreal. It's obviously down to this linkage system and this virtual high pivot, but I never ever feel like this rear end is on its limit. And I've been down some black trails. As soon as it gets really rowdy, gnarly, steep, rocks, roots, it's a weird sensation. It actually gets a lot more stable, which I'm not really used to, because I can't lie, with the propane, when it really did get rowdy, it did become fairly unstable. This bike it loves it. It just gets even more stable. It just glides over anything. Like, the rear end really does feel like a downhill bike. The front end, I do feel like sometimes I'm on the limit with it. I have got tokens in there, and it does kind of, I mean, where I am today it's fairly mellow, but yeah, I do feel like the front end of it is ever so slightly a bit, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right to me. Maybe it's because I've got a Zeb on there, not a Fox. I'm always used to running the Fox, which I think are a bit stiff. I prefer that. But yeah, I just feel like the front end of this, it really does sort of blow all the way through, and I'm running the correct sag and stuff, but it's the rear end. I just literally can't get over it. If you've ever ridden one, or if you want to try and ride one, see if you can, because I was sold instantly. I did get it brand new, and in the UK getting hold of one of these is real hard work. I was lucky enough to find one, and I snapped it up. And yeah, like I said, the way it rides it's like no other bike I've ridden, to be honest. It is very It feels very downhill bike, yeah, but when I saw the reviews of it, I was slightly concerned about the way it pedals, etc. They're saying it's horrific, but honestly, if you've got half decent fitness, it's absolutely fine. I've been cycling around all day in the woods here at Chicksands, and there's absolutely no problem with pedaling this bike. In real bad mucky conditions, you get a build up around the high idler, obviously, so it becomes a bit of a mission. But like I said, if you've got pretty general fitness to you, you're not going to have any problems. It's not as bad as some reviewers have made out, put it that way. But yeah, let me know what you think of the bike, what you would change on it. Let me know if you've got one or you've ridden one, and I'd love to know your thoughts, because I honestly can't see myself selling this bike. I do predominantly do bike park days, to be honest, so I get an uplift to the top. So there's not a huge amount of pedaling involved, but just the way the bike feels is nothing like any other bike I've ridden. Yeah, so I literally can't see myself selling this. Yeah, let me know what you think of the bike and what you might change on it, and yeah, thanks for viewing.